is going on, everyone? So this year there were some times where I was not able to review every single movie that I saw. Maybe I saw a movie months after it came out, or like in the month of December where we got a billion movies at once. I was not able to review every single movie that came out in that month at once. So in this video, I'm going to be doing some quick movie reviews to give you guys an idea about how I felt about some of these films that I did see but did not review earlier this year. So let's get started. We will start with the films that I saw most recently and move along to the film at the very end that I saw a very long time ago this year. So with that, we begin with Uncut Gems, which is a Safdie Brothers film starring Adam Sandler. He is a jewelry store owner and is in a ton of debt through gambling. At the same time, he is going through some pretty bad family problems with his wife in particular, and the guy is in some real deep you-know-what. So this is a movie that I was really looking forward to. I think Adam Sandler has potential as a great actor, but we all know the kind of movies he always does. And in this film, he surprised the heck out of me. I thought Adam Sandler was great in Uncut Gems. This was unlike anything else I've seen him do before, so props to him. He gave one of the best performances of 2019. But what else did I like about Uncut Gems? This is a very stressful movie. The entire time, I thought I was going to have a stomach ulcer. The movie never lets up. With every passing scene, your stress goes up, your anxiety is through the roof. If you're looking for a movie where you're going to endure a lot of stress, Uncut Gems is the film for you. I loved it in that department. I thought they killed it in that regard. And there is a reason for that. Had they decided to let up on any of the stressful moments, then this movie would not have been nearly as good as it was. But because they did this, and because Adam Sandler is a star in a different type of role, that's why this movie got me, and that's why I enjoyed this movie. Now, where this movie does not work for me is some of the score used doesn't always fit. It felt out of place and got me out of the mood, which was unfortunate. Plus, this is quite a bizarre film. It's not like a typical movie that you would expect coming from Adam Sandler by any means. It's very much so out there. And a lot of this movie revolves around a basketball game taking place between the Sixers and Celtics from 2012. And I'm a Sixers fan, and it was great to see my whole team play. But I already knew the outcome of that game. So for me, that basically spoiled the ending of this movie. It would have been better had this movie revolved around a fake basketball game, something that did not actually happen. Also, Kevin Garnett, he's amazing in this movie. The performances across the board, Julia Fox as well. Everyone is great in the film. Only a few nitpicks, not the best movie I've seen this year, but definitely one of the better ones. I'm giving Uncut Gems a 79%. Next up was Richard Jewell, directed by Clint Eastwood, starring Paul Walter Hauser, Kathy Bates, John Hamm, Sam Rockwell, and Olivia Wilde. This movie was originally supposed to be directed by Martin Scorsese with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill as the stars, Jonah Hill playing Richard Jewell, but that never happened. This movie went through several different processes of production. Then we finally got Eastwood as the director of this film with stars such as Paul Walter Hauser, who makes his biggest film debut, I believe, ever. I don't remember seeing this guy anywhere else, despite the fact that he does have over 40 credits of acting on IMDb, and he was excellent as his character. He is a character that we can get behind. We feel for him because of how badly these people are attacking him in the media. And even despite all of this, he's still willing to cooperate with the FBI and the government, even though they're treating him like crap. So I thought Paul Walter Hauser as a character pulled it off. He was excellent in this film. Kathy Bates was amazing in the movie. Sam Rockwell, John Hamm, everybody was so good in Richard Jewell. This is one of the best casts of the year. And the direction of this film for these characters was also so good. Clint Eastwood as a director, I think he's really great, but his last couple of movies I was not a big fan of. The 15-17 movie, To Paris, whatever, that was pretty bad. And then The Mule last year, I was very disappointed by that movie. So I'm glad to see Eastwood back to form. He was a good choice to direct this movie, and I thought he nailed it. The film itself is very compelling. This is one of those films that shines a lot of light on the media, and it shows just how badly The media can ruin somebody's life, like Richard Jewell. It's an example as to how the media can affect somebody's life in such a negative fashion. And I'm so glad this movie was made, and the themes behind this movie are very powerful, and they shine a lot of light on what's happening in present day with social media becoming such a big thing. If this happened in 2019, I'm sure Richard Jewell would have gone through so much worse, and he went through a ton back in 1996. I thought this movie was very well directed, had a compelling story underneath, and had some of the best performances of the year. Where this movie lost me a little bit was in the beginning. I felt the first 20 or so minutes were a little bit choppy, and then by the end, I did not feel that there was a big enough climax that the rest of the movie built up to. It felt like we're going to get such a huge payoff by the end, but the movie just ends and you don't feel like you gained much from the ending of the film. There is one tiny climax, but it wasn't much. I feel like this movie demanded more of a big ending than the ending we got. Richard Jewell, for me, gets an 83%. Up next, we have Michael Bay's newest movie, 6 Underground. I honestly cannot believe it got through this movie. As I said, 6 Underground was directed by Michael Bay. It stars Ryan Reynolds and a plethora of other actors, and this is a film about 6 people who fake their deaths in order to get back at some of the dictators in this world and take them down once and for all. That's the basic premise of this movie. And at the very start of this film, I knew I was in for one heck of a ride, because the beginning of this movie is everything Michael Bay times 10. It is so absurd, insane. Any single word you can think of to describe Michael Bay, you can use those same words to describe 6 Underground. This is by no means a movie that was meant to be good. If it was directed by somebody else, I think this could have been a much better film. But Michael Bay did Michael Bay things, and that's what we got with 6 Underground. I cannot even begin to describe how bad the first 30 minutes of this movie is. There is no plot. The movie is all over the place. It's scattered. It's like trying to perform surgery if you've never performed surgery before. 6 Underground is poorly acted. There is a ton of slow-mo, which comes off as very corny. The movie is entertaining, but the dialogue really takes away from the fun of this movie. He tries to be funny again, but the humor is awful. It's not good. There isn't much good here. In fact, a lot of this movie is pretty terrible. And he's so adamant on showing us gross imagery as well. There's a scene in this movie where Ryan Reynolds' character is holding up an eyeball, and it's just so disgusting. They keep showing it so close up on the camera, though. It's like, why? Why'd you need to show that? But then again, this movie is rated R. There are a lot of entertaining deaths that take place in this film, so I did have some fun with 6 Underground, and I'll give them credit. The ending of this movie did give me chills. I liked the ending of this film. I thought that was pretty good, but the first half of this movie was nothing short of atrocious. And the rest of this movie, they tried to get together a good plot, but at the end of the day, 6 Underground is a Michael Bay movie at its finest. Nothing more than that. You can have enjoyment, but it's a pretty atrocious film. I'm giving 6 Underground a 47%. Now let's go way back to before the summer even really began. There are 2 films that I never got the chance to review and saw them months after they came out. The first of which is Rocket Man, starring Taron Egerton as Elton John. And this movie shows the main part of Elton John's rise to fame as a musician. The first obvious positive is Taron Egerton as Elton John. This performance is one of the best performances, hands down, of 2019. He should definitely get nominated for an Oscar, was already nominated for a Golden Globe. As Elton John, I have no clue where the heck this performance came from. It was nothing like Eggsy in Kingsman, which was great. I'm so happy he can do more than just the Kingsman character. The best part of this movie for me was how Elton John's character comes to terms with himself. He was an alcoholic, drug addict, and this movie is told from his perspective in rehab, which I thought was nice. We don't usually see these movies told in this kind of perspective. Usually it just goes from point A to point B with their life, but in this movie, it was told in a different type of order, which I did find also refreshing. For a guy that went through so much, he keeps getting beat down scene after scene. Nothing is going right for Elton John. I thought they did a great job in portraying that on the screen. Nobody is perfect, and for a musician, life is going to be hard. You're going to go through a lot of struggles. Elton John, his dad, his mom, neither of them were good parents, and for him, it was a very difficult life, and I thought they portrayed that perfectly on the screen. And what's really weird about this movie, despite it being a musical biopic, it's a musical with some fantasy elements sprinkled in there, and I've never seen a biopic told in this way. So I found that also refreshing. This movie, if you can describe it as a biopic in general, it's a refreshing biopic. That's the best way you can describe this movie. Even if I'm not the biggest musical fan, I still like the music a lot in this movie, and Elton John's songs, they're always good. But if you're not the biggest musical fan like me, well then in that regard, you're going to be a bit biased like myself and not be the biggest fan of this movie still. In the parts where we see his backstory away from the music, I love that. But when we get to the cliches and we have the music brought up, well, this movie was not as good in those scenes. I was more for the scenes about his struggles than the scenes about his music. That's just me. Other people will see it differently. So I'm giving Rocketman a 76%, but still one of the better movies of this year. Another film that I missed back in the spring was Jordan Peele's Us, a film that I am so devastated that I did not see it in theaters. Us is one of the best movies of the year. For me, I think it's in my top 5. This, in my opinion, is a better movie than Get Out. Jordan Peele continues to show why he is a great director. And with Us, this is by far one of the creepiest movies I have ever seen. Every single moment of this film was suspenseful. There was not a passing moment that went by where I felt any tension easing up. It's one of those films that haunts your mind for years on end. There's never a moment of downtime, and it's so well put together that you never know what's going to come next. The film is so unpredictable, and there are 2 twists included in the film. The first of which was surprising, but the second of which really caught me off guard. I love the second twist in this movie. It's one of the best twists of the year and one of the best twists I've seen in quite a long time. I didn't even mention the acting in this movie. Lupita Nyong'o in Us gives one of the best performances of 2019 once again. She is so dang good. Winston Duke, the 2 kids, all of them are excellent in this movie. The acting is top-notch, considering they had to play not just 1, but 2 characters for each of them, and you know the rest. Us is eerie. It's surprising. There is so much good that comes from the movie Us. It's really well directed. The acting, as I said, is top-notch. I feel like the only thing I can complain about with Us is the fact that the movie didn't feel long enough. Yes, it's at about the right time, but had they given us an extra 10, 15 minutes, this movie probably could have been a perfect score for me. It's a must-watch. I'm giving Us a 93%. Oh, and one movie I forgot to mention that I have not finished yet is The Irishman. I watched an hour and 30 minutes of this movie, and I was really tired already, so I fell asleep after that hour and 30 minutes, but I do want to continue it. It just didn't garner any of my attention through that time. I wish I was more invested, but I haven't picked it up since around Thanksgiving. I want to watch more, but 3.5 hours is a lot to watch. I watched Lawrence of Arabia, and that movie captivated my mind. This movie, I don't know. We'll have to see, but hopefully I eventually get through it. But it's just such a tough movie to watch with 3.5 hours, and getting through the first hour and a half wasn't enough for me. Alright, and that means we are officially caught up. I am done with reviewing movies in 2019, and that means I can finally do my top 10 best movies of the year, my top 10 worst movies of the year, so get ready for those 2 videos coming out in the next couple of days. If you're new to my channel, click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.